Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line. For questions about the price of this or any Watchbox watch, reach out to me directly, Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we're discussing a watch that has enormous sentimental value to me because it was this era of Zenith Chronomaster that caused me to fall in love with Zenith in the first place. What we're discussing today is the ample Zenith Grande Chronomaster XXT Grande. The Grande, or double-digit date, is a feature of the El Primero caliber 4010 that sits inside of this 45mm rose gold watch. Terry Nataf, who was in charge of both the company and its designs at the time, was a controversial guy, and he started by preserving the essential design of the 90s Chronomaster, but making it, well, bigger. What he also did, however, was significantly upgrade the quality. We had applique features rather than printed features on dials. We had lugs that were no longer hollow with holes, but solid. We had much more substantial clasps that were now folding and thick gauge rather than the previous pin buckles. So he did make some concrete improvements that really shine through. The watch is 45mm in diameter, as you may have gathered by this point, 14.4mm thick, and 53.5mm from lug tip to lug tip. The lug spacing is an odd one. I measured it at 22.4mm, so 22 give or take, but let's just call it 22 plus. We'll throw this on my wrist. And when I first tried one of these, it was actually the same case size, but steel and a power reserve at Tourneau at the Walt Whitman Mall on Long Island. I remembered I was in love. It was a little bit too big for me then. It's a little bit too big for me now. But I remember thinking, wow, you'd have to do something really special to deserve a watch like that. And I still sort of feel that way when I look at these. The joy of discovery is still part of the experience. Whenever I see this watch, it takes me back. That said, I do think you need a wrist of 17 centimeters circumference or larger to wear this well. It does have a triple tiered flank, which makes it easy to slide underneath the cuff, so it's got that going for it as a dress watch. The strap is as ample as the watch. You could see medium rectangular scale alligator leather, bolstered or stuffed to give it volume, gloss, monotone black stitch, sheer cut side showing the layers of leather in profile, calfskin on the bottom, a Zenith factory strap, no crimping, no gouging, brand new. And yes, we have that substantial double folding clasp. Not only are the tolerances still snappy, but you can see the thick gauge of the metal used. This could have been a lot thinner and achieved the same purpose, but it has a feeling of solidity that inspires confidence, both in the component and in the brand itself. And some nice design parallelism going. You have this little teardrop profile to the buckle with the fluting that matches the fluting of the lugs. So we have the fluting of the lugs, then we have 1, 2, 3 steps to the case flank, a little bit of a pagoda style, and so that allows the dress cuff or tight sleeve to ramp up and over. The sapphire is also an expensive one, boxed and cambered. They could have gone with a flat sapphire, but to get on top of the chronograph hands and impart an ultra-luxury ambiance, this was boxed and cambered. We have oval chronograph pushers, we have a Zenith star on the crown, and then we have a dial that has a tachymeter scale outboard vintage style. In general, pre-1960 tachymeters on watches tended to be on dials. Post-1960, you tended to see them on bezels. This has a dial tachymeter, and it can be used with the chronograph seconds hand to gauge the speed of an object. I always like to use the example of a race car over a kilometer. Now, here's where things go a little bit, well, they get quirky. You could see that the watch movement is much smaller than the watch, as the registers themselves are clustered tightly around the hands, whereas there's quite a bit of acreage to this dial. Scaling up the watch with the traditional El Primero caliber resulted in some visual quirks, and a few things were done aesthetically to disguise that. Concentric tracks being one of the first. You could see there's the tachymeter outboard, then there's a dental style cut. You could see these rows of serration outboard of the seconds track. We have the seconds track and the fractional seconds hashes for the chronograph, and then we have these lovely applied rose gold radially arrayed Roman numerals, including a watchmaker's 4. Then we have another dental style track flanking a, well, I don't know what you want to call this, a crosshatch, maybe a queue de poisson, a fish scale, or a vague wave pattern. And then we have a much more traditional guilloche rosette inside each of the sub-registers. Note each of them sunken with a little bit of a countersink and featuring their own dental track outboard. We have dramatically extended, long and lean Dauphine hands, and you can see that they've been faceted down their center, both from sub-registers and at center, in order to make the time more legible. We have a gold frame for the date. The watch does include a quick set. One of the quirks of the El Primero, at least the traditional El Primero before the 3600s, has been that in the outermost position, the crown sets the date, and in the intermediate position, it actually sets the time. Fantastic pusher feel, all this 30 meters water resistant. Zenith El Primero, caliber 4010, 31 joules, bidirectional automatic winding, 50 to 55 hour power reserve, 36,000 vibrations per hour, so 10 beats per second, a traditional feature of the El Primero since 1969, when it secured its place in history as the first integrated automatic high-beat chronograph. You can see the column wheel as well as the lateral clutch in action, one of the aesthetic advantages of the El Primero being that it's always been a very open, airy automatic chronograph with no winding bridge blocking your view of the works. And then we have an upscale feature, another element added in the Nataf era, this wonderful guilloche cut, beveled and satinated 22-karat rotor. You could have gotten away with 21. You could have gotten away with 18, and some brands even rose gold cover tungsten. But 22-karat is really lush and lovely. It's what you'd expect from an AP or a Vacheron, and so it was becoming of a manufacturer like Zenith, which is an integrated manufacturer, to put something this rich on its famous movement. There are a lot of handsome elements on the El Primero chronographs, and in my opinion, the best finished pieces are the steel chronograph components, but we have both blued and polished screws, the idea being to let the watchmaker know which ones are responsible for adjustment and which ones are responsible for fixing things in assembly. We also have engine turning on bridges, which is an unusual approach, with satination on wheels and satination on the eccentric micrometric regulator. This is a cool watch, and like I said, it takes me back to the mid to late 2000s when this was the look for the Chronomaster line, and I was just beginning to fall in love with the Zenith brand. Reach out to me. It's not too late to talk. Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.